What's up, Alvy? Hello. 3 more days to go. 3 more days. I hope this gets an update before then. I'm kind of running out of things to do in this game. I'm at the point where I'm just hunting for rare drops. Best in slot stuffs. It's kind of what I'm doing in this game right now. Just getting a bunch of yellows. Turn into legendaries when they add more, because like right now it's not worth it. Plus I'm earning meta currency by doing this too. What's left back here? This guy. Needed. A lot of money this run. was the last legendary I needed. Nice. Well, there was a point to continuing to play this. Now I have the entire drop table. Let's see what it rolled with. It's actually pretty trash. Huh. Well, not worth using now. They announced another beat 'em up today, but trailer is not great. Mostly fully animated intro instead of showing the game, which I'm not a fan of, as you guys know. Hopefully they show more of it. Maybe it'll be a good game. I don't know. I'm not really feeling a lot of the post Streets 4 beat 'em ups. They're just like, they just feel objectively worse. A lot of them have like really nice graphics and aesthetics, but I just don't care for the gameplay. I want to know when Rushing Beat is coming out. That's like the one I'm most excited about. A Karate Kid game I have like almost no interest in, just because of who's publishing it. Already makes me not interested. Karate Kid game is published by Game Mill, so that means two things. It means first, it's probably going to suck, and then like that it's also not even the developers' fault, because they always get developers from like developing countries, and they give them like no money and time to make them. Like, there's the same people that published that shitty King Kong game last year. Remember that Kong game, Rise of Kong? That was done by like, they said they had like 2 to 20 people working on that game, and they gave them like a year to make it. So, Karate Kid game is probably going to suck. Like, almost 100% certain. Game Mill has like one good game, and that's the Nick Star Brawl series. The Nick Star Brawl is only good because they actually got a developer that like knows how to make a platform fighter or Smash clone. So I'm not even gonna bother getting that Karate Kid game. I'll look up gameplay of it, but I don't know. It's one of those things you don't even really need to play. Just knowing who's making it is already enough. It's definitely not great to always be closed-minded like that with games, but with like Game Mill, you know it's gonna suck. They're always like unproven studios as well, and it's like you can't even really say, you know, you gotta give new studios a chance. You can't just rely on big AAA studios. I get that, but being published by Game Mill means they're pretty much just going from frame one. There's been so many amazing games from unproven studios and like countries we don't normally get a lot of games from, but I don't know, being published by Game Mills feels like they're just doomed on arrival. The Karate Kid game looks like it has nice pixel art, but the gameplay looks all messed up. Gameplay looks like really messed up. I don't know if they're planning to have co-op, but I feel like they're probably going to want to consider that. I feel bad for people that get published by Game Mill because, you know, people are always down on them, like, why is it this random developer from Argentina or something? And it's like, well, they're pretty much boned from the start being published by Game Mill. Taking a job from Game Mill is pretty much like guaranteeing that you're not going to get any money to make the game with. Like, no money to make it with. And they want it out by this very specific time. Yeah, a lot of the new beat-em-ups I just haven't really had any interest in playing. They look nice, like the graphics look nice, but the gameplay is just like worse than what I already have. So I'm not really caring too much. I wish that wasn't the case, but I think a lot of it is just open world fatigue. You know, Elden Ring, people have played that game for hundreds of hours, and there's all these other open world games and stuff, and like, people are actually more willing to play like a beat 'em up now, just because they're tired of open world. like Wukong's got its flaws, the optimization, and I've heard people in my Discord have said it's got flaws with its combat, but at least it's not open world. Pretty much everybody has been praising that unanimously. It's not an open world game. You know, you can probably plow through it in a couple work weekends instead of having it take like 300 hours. But I don't know, it's hard to make an actual good beat 'em up. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to make a good beat 'em up. But on the other hand, like, people's standards are like really low, so people have like non-existent standards, and like I just see those games and I'm just like, this is worse than Streets 4. It's worse than Streets 4. I just like don't have an interest. Rushing Beat looks like the most competent new beat 'em up coming out from what I've seen. Now that they've been showing more gameplay, it looks really good. It's actually doing some pretty refreshing new things with like the air combos, and the food buff system looks really cool. The roster's also going to be pretty big as well. Looks like they're shooting to have like almost every playable character from the Rushing Beat series. I think they're missing a couple, or maybe they are going to have them all, but just like not announce them until later. But yeah, it looks really good. It looked pretty rough when they announced it, but that was like a year ago. Seemingly working on it pretty hard. I was kind of a little bit skeptical about that game at first, but after they've shown more on it, it actually looks pretty sick. With Spike Out, I've never had the opportunity to play. I'm waiting until Infinite Wealth is like $20, because I'm not interested in playing that game at all, because it's just 80-hour turn-based RPG, and that's not my thing. But when Infinite Wealth is $20, I'll definitely buy it just for Spike Out. So I never had an arcade that had that game. I've never even seen a cabinet. I know it's a really good game, I just never had access to it. I need to play it at some point. I just don't want to spend 50 bucks just for that game. Infinite Wealth has been out for a few months and it's still like 45 bucks on sale. It's a little bit out of my price range for just buying it for the Spike Out Ramen emulator. That game is getting a beat-em-up mod. Guy is working on it, but I don't know. There's only so much you can do. It looks mildly interesting, but like I don't know if it's good enough to carry 80 hours of gameplay. I kind of doubt it, honestly. No, Spike Out is insanely popular in Japan, but did they even release that game here? I don't think they did. I think it just like never came out here. I know for a fact we didn't get Slash Out. Slash Out was like purely Japan only. And then they didn't do a Dreamcast port, so we couldn't even import that one. Ah, Nickel City, I used to hang out there. Maybe I did see Spike Out at one point. What Nickel City was that? Nickel City was always funny because, like, they had the games in the back that you could play, but, like, a lot of them, like, barely worked. So, the place wasn't all it was cracked up to be. It was kinda... I wouldn't call it a scam, but... definitely was a little bit like how Round 1 is now. Round 1, they have, like, barely anybody that can actually fix the games anymore. I don't know if I went to that one. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I didn't go to that one. I went to another one. A lot of the Nickel City games were falling apart, and you could tell that like they either didn't have anybody that knew how to repair it, or they just didn't repair the games to keep the cost down. Because it was like Capcom. It was Capcom funded, from what I remember. Capcom USA funded those, so if it was a Capcom game, there's a pretty high chance it was there. Like, they even had stuff like Spawn. Spawn got, like, no distribution, but Nickel City had it because it was sponsored by, not sponsored, but, like, funded or something by Capcom USA. But every time I went, the games would be, like, falling apart. It wasn't really worth the money. If you liked the games in the back that were, you know, older, like, single-player stuffs, it was alright. But for playing anything, like, new, it wasn't that great, because it kind of just let the games rot in the back. Have you been to the Round 1 on Eastridge? I went there last year, and it was significantly worse than the last time I went, because they got rid of so much good stuff and just put more crappy Raw Thrills games in there. Like, I don't consider those real arcade games. At least not something I would go travel to go play. Those are like barely arcade games. Yeah, it's gotten a lot worse. It's mostly just infested with Brawl Thrills games now. It's really only worth going to regularly if you're a rhythm game nut, which I'm obviously not, because when do you see me play a rhythm game? I was decent at Hi-Fi Rush, but the rhythm games aren't really my thing. The rhythm games are pretty well maintained from what I've seen, but like, if you're not into those, that place is kind of bunk now, unfortunately. Not a lot of reason to go. I don't think the Nessica cabinets had anything like particularly interesting on them. Mostly just stuff that you could play on a Steam Deck now, and like no one really goes there for competitive games, as far as I can tell. It's mostly just rhythm games is like the big draw to go there. If you're not into that, outside of the allure of actually having a modern arcade to go to that's like at least somewhat decently maintained compared to what we usually have, the place is not the best. Other round ones I'm to are better. Yeah, their like fighting game section is pitifully small now. One cool thing they had was this was right before Street Fighter 6 came out, so they had Street Fighter 5 type arcade, which was pretty cool. I don't know how good that is competitively, because I didn't really play that game competitively, but I don't know. It's nice to have standardized hardware for competitive games again, because that's one of the things that sucks about fighting games going full console. It's all the problems with, you know, the consoles overheating and, you know, controllers not working and people not disconnecting their controllers. So in the middle of the match, the PS5 barks at you to unplug your controller. I don't know about the tournament viability of the Street Fighter 5 and 6 arcade versions. Those are all problems that we've had once we kind of stopped mainly competing in the arcades, is all the problems that come with console gaming. A lot of PS5s have been overheating at fighting game tournaments because they're not really engineered the best way. They're supposed to be engineered to be able to be used in like extremely hot climates for long periods of time, but like that's not actually what they are. That's why like they don't even entertain the idea of playing Street Fighter 5 on PS4. Like the PS4 version for competitive play is like not even used at all. It's completely not used. But the PS5 version has problems as well. Apparently people's like adapters have been getting burnt out from the overheating and stuff like that. I don't know how true that is or how frequent it is, but I believe it. Competing in fighting games has been kind of a mess ever since everybody just gets it on console day one. I wish that wasn't the case. You think that would be a good thing, but it's brought a lot of problems you didn't have, and, you know, they just put the arcade cabinet in event mode and called it a day. Yeah, that too. A lot of people have perfectly functional arcade sticks, and they're wanting you to go buy a new one when you really shouldn't have to. But, like, doing PCs for fighting game tournaments is basically not viable. It's too expensive and it takes up too much space. Even though it would effectively solve the stick compatibility problem, it's just too expensive. Steam Deck can barely run SF6 and Tekken 8. I mean, it can, but I don't know if anybody would want to play, like, a serious competitive match on that. It's fine for casual play. I've played both of those games on Steam Deck. It's not unplayable, but I don't know if I would want to play a match for even a small amount of money. A small amount of money on Steam Deck. For stuff like Marvel 3 and like King of Fighters, it's like completely fine, but for the stuff that's a little bit harder to run, I don't know how viable it is for tournaments. Yeah, every generation of consoles, we go through the whole musical chairs thing with sticks not being compatible, even though it's the same USB port. Like, the stick companies take full advantage of that. There's 360 sticks that still work just fine, but it's such a pain to get them to work on modern consoles. Like going to a tournament expecting it to work and not having people give you the side eye because you're delaying the tournament is a very real thing. I've got a 360 stick right next to me that works fine still, but I definitely would not expect to be catered to if I brought that to a tournament. I imagine they probably have Street Fighter 6 type arcade at round 1 right now. I don't know how many people actually play it though. I feel like maybe if the fighting game community wasn't really struggling to get actual stable sponsors that aren't scams, that maybe they could do, maybe they could do PC. I mean, the requirements for Street Fighter 6 is pretty low. The Tekken 8 is a lot harder to run. But, I mean, having it at the level where somebody's actually going to want to compete on it is a different story. The Steam Deck can run Tekken 8 at a competitive level, but at, like, sub-native resolution, and it looks really grainy, so I don't know how many people are going to want to roll in any kind of even remotely serious tournament on that. Maybe when the Steam Deck 2 comes out, the fighting game community can transition to PC and not have to deal with all the stick problems anymore. Steam Deck 2 should be able to clear, like, pretty much any fighting game that's going to come out in the next 5-6 years. It already can run them. It's just not going to look pretty. Raw Thrills games are just, like, not interesting. They're not what I would really go to the arcade for, but I can understand why they've taken over. Because a lot of the popular Japanese games are, like, falling apart. It was a big deal that they had Third Strike at EVO. It was, like, not easy to get that game playable at a competitive level, just because all the ports have things wrong with them. They're not tournament viable. So they actually got like 50 super guns just to play that game. Raw Thrills games are also just computers in a fancy cabinet, so I think they're a lot easier to repair. I was very disappointed with Time Crisis 5 because the performance is garbage. The performance is an eyesore. It drops frames constantly. I posted a video on my Discord of somebody running it on Steam Deck, and it runs better than the arcade cabinet, which is honestly pathetic. It's awesome, but also pathetic. Could legit put the Steam Deck in a cabinet and get a Sinden light gun and run it better than the actual cabinet. I'm very tempted to do something like that, because I used to be really big into Time Crisis. But I never really have gotten to play 4. Or, not 4, but 5. I was the best at 4. I haven't really heard any actual opinions on 5. I just know that people didn't like that they basically did on-disc DLC with the find out who the last boss is by waiting for the arcade owner to upgrade it. I don't know if that was the best idea in retrospect. 5 had some interesting ideas. There's not a whole lot you can do with a light gun game. I mean, they're pretty simple. They're pretty simple when it comes down to it. The whole, like, changing sides mechanic was pretty cool. That was kind of interesting. I thought that added, like, an interesting dynamic to it. What little I played it, but I don't know if it was enough to carry another game, but when you understand why 5 was even made in the first place, kind of feel like they just didn't really have any new ideas, but from what I understand, Time Crisis 5 was mainly made because the other ones were falling apart, but, like, still making a disproportionate amount of money, despite how old they are. Light gun games kind of, like, all collectively died. A genre, like, completely died when we went to HD TVs. You say everything else is a dead genre, but, like, light gun games are legit dead. As soon as the PS3 came out, that was, like, the end of light gun games. There was a couple for the Wii, like House of the Dead Overkill, and a couple light gun game ports like Ghost Squad were on it, but that was mostly because the Wii was still standard definition. Yeah, that was the end of light gun games right there. It was like the actual moment when they just died. I know the Guncon 3 for PS3 is like insanely expensive. And then a PlayStation Move controller, which is not as good as the Guncon 3, from what I understand, is insanely expensive too. So, best way to play those games now is to just emulate them, which the Steam Deck can do on its own. Emulate it, and then get a Sinden light gun, because those actually work on HD TVs. I heard the House of the Dead remake was shit, apparently. I haven't played it myself, but that's about on par with Forever Entertainment. They get licenses to dead franchises, and they make crap remakes that are, like, usually worse than the original game. They've been doing that since the Panzer Dragoon remake. At least that one had some excuse, because the source code for that game has been lost, I think. But I don't know about making remakes for something that's worse than the original. That's kind of what the Night Slashers remake looks like. Actually, the Night Slashers remake is terrible because they have a demo out for it. GG. That was a good run. There we go. First full clear on stream. That's like my 4th clear. GG's. Okay. Yeah, I like how the Night Slashers remake looks worse than the original, because they didn't do pixel art. They're not talented enough to do pixel art, so they did hand-drawn, and it makes it look like a Newgrounds Flash game, but then, like, the gameplay is all messed up too. I'm like, who is this for? Night Slashers is already not, like, a popular beat-em-up, just because it was Data East and not Capcom, meaning that very few people grew up with that, statistically. I'm not one of them. I don't think I ever even saw a Night Slashers cabinet. I pretty much lived in the arcades back then. But then like you make it all jank and unappealing like that, and it looks worse than the pixel art. It's like, who is this game for? I legitimately don't understand what they're trying to do. There's been a lot of retro remakes like that lately. You just wonder, like, why they exist. Like, the Joe and Mac remake also looks terrible with, they didn't even do pixel art. They did, skeletal flash animation. So, nothing really has any impact. It looks really cheap. It basically, like, looks like a Newgrounds Flash game. That was their idea of a remake. Like, well, if the pixel art is worse than the game that came out, like, 30 plus years ago, I mean, what's the point of making it? I get it's hard to top pixel art back then, because indie games have really only been topping that level of pixel art for, like, the past 10 years or so. But if you're not even gonna try, I don't know, is it really worth making a remake? Especially if you're gonna botch the gameplay, too? Pretty much everyone has told them the Night Slashers remake is terrible, but I guess they're gonna still go through and release it. I don't know anybody who's interested in it. They put up a demo for the Next Fest a couple months ago. I played it for like 2 minutes, so I'm like, this is garbage. Night Slashers is not even that great of a beat-em-up as it is. Like, you're making it look and play worse. I mean, what's the point? I could just go get the ROM. Or play Night Slashers X on OpenBOR, which is better. I don't know, I feel like their whole business model is remaking stuff that, like, has still aged pretty well. Like, maybe not graphics-wise, but, like, House of the Dead 2 is, like, one of the best light gun games out there that's not Time Crisis. Like, you really could just, like, put that up on, you know, Steam and Switch and stuff and just upscale it. But there's a number of problems with that. A lot of the source code has been lost. Although that hasn't really stopped a lot of these ports, because they're just emulators. They're just emulators in a fancy front end. So it's like, you know, I hate to say this, but you can get a better experience just downloading the ROM. Yeah, light gun games in general have pretty much completely died ever since we transitioned to HD. The only thing that was keeping it alive was the Wii, and the Wii got a couple. Most of them really weren't worth playing. I mean, Ghost Squad was pretty legit. I think House of the Dead Overkill was, like, okay, but not, like, top tier, or, like, House of the Dead 2, Time Crisis 2 through 4, kind of top tier. Probably more like the midway light gun games, which are, like, low tier. Not something you'd actively seek out and play. I like how Scarlet God Dawn doesn't have a port when, like, the cabinet is literally just a mid-range computer in a really fancy cabinet. It's running on Unreal Engine. Like, I'll be shocked if that doesn't at least get, like, a Switch 2 port. Because the Joy-Con can at least function as a light gun, even though it's not as good as a real one. I'll be shocked if they don't do that. It seems like money on the table to me. current Switch definitely couldn't handle it. I've heard conflicting things about Scarlet Dawn, if it's like actually any good or not. But yeah, it really is just in a cabinet. It's a fancy big cabinet. Yeah, that's exactly why Time Crisis 5 runs better on the Steam Deck, because the Steam Deck is still like multiple years more recent hardware than the computers that they had in the TC5 cabinets. Interesting to see if the new Switch will like partially revive light gun games, because realistically it is the only place where light gun game could actually exist and sell more than 2 copies. And ironically, it's not because of how popular the Switch is. It's more just that it has something that functions as that can function as a light gun. The other consoles don't have anything like that. And like, nobody's gonna make a new light gun anymore. Like, that's not gonna happen. Clearly have the technology for it, but it's just there's so few things you can use it on compared to an arcade stick. You can play like various kinds of indie games on an arcade stick just fine, even if you're not into fighters. Like, you're not gonna make a new light gun. GunCon 3 was the last actual light gun. Alvy, what is the consensus on Time Crisis 5? Like, what exactly is wrong with it? I think splitting the game in 2 and making people wait was a really stupid thing for a light gun game that, like, most normal people are only gonna play once. But then, like, also making it stupid plot-wise, too. Like, it's player 2 from Time Crisis 2 does a heel turn. That's the whole plot twist. It's like, who really cares?
差し違えてでも貴様を止めてみせる。殿のためなら勝てるとも本望。殿、先を急がれよ。拙者がこれにて追っ手を防ぎます。さらば平門。主のためなら喜んで命を捨てるのか。これからの通信を家康は今こそ真田がやり受けていただく。を倒しちゃったよ。家臣自慢じゃ家康に勝てそうじゃのう。開門。
I think 4 was like peak Time Crisis. Just really solid gameplay. However, I think scoring in that game is really dumb just because the way that the auto-scroller levels work. So, if you're actually going for a good score, there's no reason to ever play as 2-player. And because I used to play that game for score. I was relatively decent at it, above average. Could 1cc almost every time. I even no damage cleared the game once. That was my best Time Crisis. The scoring was just kind of dumb because they didn't really realize that making the weapons change depending which character you're playing made the scoring really boring. I don't remember how much more player 1 can score over 2, but it's like a couple 100,000 points, I think. It's a pretty insane amount. One of those games that has no kind of tier list at all. It's first player and second player. my score on 4 was like 5.2 million, which apparently was pretty good.
天下に太平をもたらすその時までおことの言う通り
at the same time, 4 kind of sucks for scoring, but besides the fact that 2-player is objectively worse for high-level play in every way, the thing that sucks is that the main brunt of the skill of playing that game high-level for score is entirely in the auto-scrollers. Because you can fully combo the entire auto-scroller, so that's a big chunk of, like, what makes up your score. Luckily, it's at the beginning of the game, but yeah, that game is pretty frustrating to play at a high level. What's up, Gaijin? How you doing? I think at the height of my skill level for that game, I could full combo the whole auto scroller, which is very difficult. Tried out Fight Forever, yeah, I'm legit more excited for that than almost any of the new beat-em-ups coming out. That's kind of sad, honestly, because that's like a fan game made by somebody in their spare time, and he's getting very little funding to make that with, but it's like legit better than a lot of the new ones coming out. It's depressing, honestly. Yeah, that's something that was my my observation as well. Is that the frame rate dropped way more than the previous game on like significantly weaker hardware. Although I feel like a lot of that, it might have not actually been like that when the game was new. I think it's just that the computers that power those cabinets have been on like 24/7 for like 9 years, so they're not running that great. That's the downside to arcades just being computers and cabinets now, is there's a lot more that can go wrong with the hardware. I think Raw Thrills at one point was quoted as saying that the new Cruisin' game, which I think is like actually one of their only good arcade games, runs on like a 1050 Ti computer. So like, they put no money into those cabinets. That was not high-end hardware even when that game came out. It was like mid-range at best. It's like the kind of computer you would give like your little brother or something. That's powering an arcade game now. Yeah, that's one thing that's definitely changed with modern arcade games compared to legacy ones, is the hardware that was in legacy arcade games was way more advanced than what's in current ones. It's basically just like cheap computers. Really cheap, low-end computers.
視線を越え来た乱世の終わりを彩る兄弟か。
It's fun doing all the button combos. Yeah, it's got... Every character has like 20 moves in that game. It's pretty nuts. For the most part, you can cancel like any time, which is really awesome. I can't wait until he pushes the next update for that.
信長様の読み通り。徳川家康、勝頼様を狙うつもりか。だが私には上方様の教えがある。静かなること林のこと将を忍ばせていたとはさすが兄上。ならば私は家康公を討つ。信玄公の戦術風林火山、しっかり受け継がれているようですね。
What's up, King Smurf? How you doing? Which Orochi? There's like 10 Orochi games. Which one? Gotta be more specific. There's a lot. 4. Four is fun for style play. It's just not that great of a game outside that. The combat is really fun, but so many other things about it are just not really well fleshed out. But if you like doing combos and you're tired of DMC and fighting games, I mean, that's a very underrated style play game in the style play community. Just because it has like 180 characters that you can switch out at any time. You can do insane stuff in that game, but a lot of style players just don't really touch it. Still a lot of negative stigma towards Muso games and them actually having depth to gameplay, even if, you know, arguably you don't really need to do any of that stuff to win at the game, but I mean, you could say the same about TMC. Virgil removes like any skill from every DMC game that he's in. You don't need to do all that fancy stuff. So I think that argument is kind of bunk in my opinion. The 4 is an excellent style play game. As a Muso game, it's very lacking. Story mode sucks. Endgame mode leaves a lot to be desired. Replay value in that game depends on how much you care about air juggles. If you like style play, that game is incredible. Because you'll never run out of things to do. But you need like an actual objective to enjoy playing a video game. That game gets old really quick. Story mode is like one of the worst story modes they've ever done. Because you have to wait so much for them to stop talking. Even if you do care about the story, you have to hear it every single time you play a map. It eats up a lot of time.
わりだ。動かざる者山のごとし。砦を守り抜くぞ。
But yeah, they massively increased the depth of the combat system in 4, because you basically just get to switch cancel whenever the hell you feel like it. You can do it in the air, you can do it in the middle of like any animation. I wish the level design was better. The endgame mode had like better rewards, more of an actual reason to play it besides just you need an objective to enjoy playing the game still. Go out and say that Vanilla Orochi 4, meaning the first release of the game and not Ultimate, was actually pretty trash. Because the only thing that there was to do was the story, and the story mode was terrible, for reasons I already mentioned. Pacing was the worst it's ever been. The game lets you go, like, as fast as you want, at like all times. Basically like dash across the levels like the Flash, and then you get stuck waiting at a door, waiting for them to stop talking, and that happens like 4 times a level. But like that's all there was to do in Vanilla Orochi 4, and then also you couldn't change the sacred treasures. Sacred treasures were definitely not created equal, which is why a lot of people didn't like that system, because they were the replacement for R1s. But a lot of characters have really shitty ones. So your favorite character was stuck with a crap sacred treasure and you couldn't do anything about it. And the only gameplay mode was story. I think Ultimate was a pretty good upgrade, but it didn't really add anything that I felt shouldn't have been in the original release. It wasn't like Mao Seiden and 3 Ultimate, where they like added a ton of new stuff, and it felt like a meaningful upgrade. 4 Ultimate was just like, this is how the game should have been day 1. I'd argue that game is not worth playing unless you're going to shell out the money for Ultimate, because it does make the game a lot better, but map variety is also really bad in Orochi 4 as well. They only have like 10 maps for like the whole game, which makes the story make like very little sense. like the end of that game when you're supposed to beat Odin, you go back to that map like 2 or 3 times right after you just cleared it out. It's like everybody just gets back into position and starts fighting again. They couldn't even bother to make a new map for like the actual final battle. Felt like everything, the budget for that game like entirely went into having like almost 200 playable characters, and then improving the combat. But like everything else is a lot worse than 3. It looks better. I think that's why 4 is often rated a lot worse than 3. Combat is a lot better in 4, but everything else is worse. And like most people that play these games don't really care about the combat to that level, so I can definitely see why it's rated a lot lower.
勝頼様がいて兄上がいる。武田はまだ終わりはしない。
I do find it really interesting how, like, they legit can't make another Orochi. They've written themselves into a corner. That's really strange when you think about it, because they always, like, set things up that they could just, like, keep making Musou games forever, but then, like, they can't make an Orochi 5. I think Orochi is, like, super dead now that we know a lot more about how Origins works, and how you basically play a silent protagonist, and you don't have the large roster anymore. Like, Orochi is completely dead. It was already dead before, but now that Origins is coming out within, the next year, they legit cannot make an Orochi 5. It's actually logistically impossible. It already was before, because there was the problem of, like, Dynasty Warriors 9 being a full reboot, but then, like, having so many clones. And then Samurai Warriors 5 came out, and also had, like, half the cast cloned. So now they could do it like Orochi 3, where the cloned Dynasty Warriors characters had, like, different charge attacks, but I feel like with how much the roster has inflated since that game came out, they're not going to want to do that. And then, like, the Samurai Warriors 5 situation is even worse, because there's, like, 40 characters and 15 movesets. So actually, it's like 60% of the cast in that game is cloned. That's pretty interesting that they, like, didn't really think about that. Like, Orochi games print money. You can put one of those out and put, like, random collab characters and sell a couple 100,000 copies, but, like, they legit can't make one right now, and that's crazy to me. It's a shame, because 4 has, like, such good combat, but, like, everything else about it is so lacking that, like, they're not even in a position where they can improve it. Like, it's pretty much just completely soft-locked. I can't think of any other Musou franchise that's soft-locked like that. I mean, pretty much all of them could come back at some point. One Piece is kind of at that point, but I do feel like they'll make, like, one more Pirate Warriors, but it'll probably be when One Piece ends, whenever the hell that is, because that series never ends. But from what they did with Pirate Warriors 4, it really feels like they're not going to do a Pirate Warriors 5 until the series is over, because they put in a lot of highly requested characters in the DLC for Pirate Warriors 4. And, like, they wouldn't do that if they were going to make a fifth game, because that's pretty much how they did the first four games. They added characters people wanted. Oh, we're doing this again, huh? Let me see if I can fix this really quick. Hold on. I forgot how to fix this. Hold on. I kind of wanted to play Orochi since we were talking about it, but it's crashing whenever I get into the menu. I don't remember how to fix that. Let me see here. It's because I've got mods installed. Okay, I think I know how to fix this. Hold on. Alright, maybe I don't know how to fix this. Maybe I'm just going to give up. Apparently you have to, like, close it in Task Manager to get the mod to work, but I'm looking in my Task Manager right now and I don't see it. I don't know how much effort I want to put into this. I was probably going to stop streaming soon anyway. Let me see here. Give this one more shot, and I'm probably just going to call it for tonight. Yeah, I don't see my Steam in here anywhere. Let me load it up again. Try this one more time. It's been a pretty chill stream. I don't really want to start mauling over tech support. Wanting to keep things nice and relaxed. No rage. I did kind of feel like playing it right now, because I haven't really played it since I got my computer back, but it keeps just crashing when I get to the menu. Yep, same thing. Alright. Let's see here. I think what's probably happened is something's up with Windows, because when you run the mod on Steam Deck, it works perfectly. And when I run it on the big computer, I've had this problem before, where the game just like won't load into gameplay. I don't know when was the last time he updated it. He hasn't updated it since last time I played, so that's not it. Alright. I don't know. I'm gonna go ahead and call it there, folks. It's almost 1 in the morning. I'm gonna be at decreased activity until Gundam comes out, so I'll probably stream at my neighbor's house tomorrow. I'm off tomorrow, but I'll still be over there because I need to do my laundry. I do my laundry over there. They have a better washer and dryer than I have here, so we'll probably play some indie games over there. I don't really want to start any new games right now, because once Gundam comes out, that's going to be like the main thing I'm playing. Pretty much just Gundam and PGR. Outside of stuff getting updated, like Dragon is Dead. But yeah, that's going to do it for now, folks. Sorry for the abrupt ending, but I don't know how to fix Orochi. I'll have to ask around. But yeah, it's just not wanting to load into gameplay. I guess I could try reinstalling it, but that's more effort than I care to exert right now. So yeah, I'll see you guys next time.